The most powerful witch hunters now were coming from Twitter, the Ivy League, and the progressive left. J.K. Rowling used to be a villain to the right because she wrote books about witchcraft. Now she's a villain to the left because she has the crazy belief that there's more to being a woman than pronouns and lipstick.
Emma is rightly free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public. But I have the same right, and I've finally decided to exercise it. I mean, mic drop, Stuber gear. She could not have said this more perfectly, better, more powerfully, or more in a more damaging way for Emma Watson. She deserved every bit of scorn.
So, after years of threats and betrayal, from the very stars she turned into, household names, J.K. Rowling has finally fired back, and it was brutal. The Harry Potter mastermind just torched Emma Watson for hopping aboard the woke mob, trashing her and trying to cancel her over trans ideology. Everyone knows Rowling's pen is sharper than a sword, but no one saw the savage level of razor-edged wit and biting sarcasm coming. So buckle up, because this takedown is one for the books.
I want to make a couple of points. I'm not owed eternal agreement from any actor who once played a character I created. Emma Watson and her co-stars have every right to embrace gender identity ideology. However, Emma and Dan in particular have both made it clear over the last few years that they think our former professional association gives them a particular right, nay, obligation, to critique me and my views in public. Years after they finished acting in Potter, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. When you've known people since they were 10 years old, it's hard to shake a certain protectiveness. For the past few years, I've repeatedly declined invitations from journalists to comment on Emma specifically. Ironically, I told producers I didn't want her to be hounded as the result of anything I said.
So, J.K. Rowling began by calmly admitting that, yes, she's seen every jab and every smug comment Emma Watson and her fellow Potter alumni have thrown her way, and we'll dig into those shortly. But here's the twist. She chose silence, not weakness. Rowling explained that she's known these actors since they were children, barely 10 years old, and because of that, she held a deep, almost maternal fondness for them. Out of that respect, she bit her tongue, refusing to unleash the kind of destruction she easily could. But that affection, it was never returned. Instead, they sided with the mob, and that's the woke script. Attack first, think never, and burn everything in sight.
She speaks of that clip that we just watched. The television presenter in the attached clip highlights Emma's all witches speech, and in truth, that was a turning point for me. But it had a postscript that hurt far more than the speech itself. This is the one in which Emma attacked J.K. in 2022. Emma asked someone to pass on a handwritten note from her to me, which contained the single sentence, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through. She has my phone number." This was back when the death, rape, and torture threats against me were at their peak, and I was constantly worried for my family's safety.
Emma eventually tried to walk back her attacks, quietly apologizing for the cruel and dismissive things she'd said about J.K. Rowling, especially for abandoning her when the woke mob swarmed in. Deep down, Emma probably knew Rowling was speaking hard truths, but admitting that openly, too much for her pride. Instead, she slipped an apology through a third party, hoping it would smooth things over without costing her reputation. But let's be honest, that's the definition of cowardice. If she had the nerve to publicly throw Rowling, the very woman who made her a household name, under the bus, then she should have the same courage to step up and deliver a public apology. Anything less is weak.
He poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness. Like other people who have never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is.
And that right there explains why Hollywood is drowning in wokeness, completely insulated from the struggles and daily grind of ordinary Americans. These celebrities live in a bubble so inflated with privilege and self-importance that reality never pierces through. They preach about justice and morality, but when it comes down to actually understanding the hardships of working families. They're clueless. Emma Watson is a perfect example. Her wealth means she can jet off to any destination, buy anything she desires, and never worry about the price of groceries, rent, or gas. That disconnect makes it easy for her to pander to the woke crowd. After all, when life is as comfortable, real, world consequences simply don't exist.
Need a homeless shelter. She's never going to be placed on a mixed-sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's been in a high street changing room since childhood. Her public bathroom is single occupancy and comes with a security man standing guard outside the door. Has she had to strip off in a newly mixed-sex changing room at a council-run swimming pool? Is she ever likely to need a state-run rape crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-female service?
J.K. Rowling really turned up the heat on Emma with one of her most pointed remarks yet. She said Emma could never truly grasp what it feels like for a woman to be forced into a changing room with a man pretending to be a woman. Rowling painted the picture clearly. The unease, the frustration, the creeping fear that comes with being stripped of privacy and safety in a space meant for women. And she didn't stop there. She pushed further, pointing out that Emma will likely never experience the terror of sharing a locker room with a man already known for preying on women, because Emma's wealth and privilege shield her from that harsh reality. Rowling's point landed hard. For celebrities like Emma, it's easy to champion woke causes when they'll never pay the price for them. For everyday women, however, the stakes are painfully real.
Sharing a prison cell with a male rapist who's identified into the women's prison. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges.
Rowling hits the nail squarely on the head when she calls out Emma for blindly cheerleading the trans movement without considering its real-world consequences. By pushing for biological males to share bathrooms, locker rooms, and other intimate spaces with women, Emma is not just being progressive. She's actively trampling on the hard-won rights of women. Rowling argues that safety, privacy, and dignity are not optional luxuries. They are fundamental protections every woman deserves. Yet, in the name of inclusivity, Emma and her woke allies are willing to sacrifice those protections, exposing women to risks they themselves will never personally face. Rowling makes it clear, it's easy to signal virtue when you live behind gated walls and luxury security. But for everyday women, these policies mean vulnerability. Emma may think she's standing for justice, but in reality, she's standing on the backs of women who can't afford her kind of privilege.
Irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was, I might never have been this honest. Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love.
J.K. Rowling is absolutely right. And when you really think about it, the silence from Emma Watson is deafening. For all her speeches about justice and compassion, not once has Emma ever condemned the vicious death threats hurled at Rowling. That should tell you everything. Instead of standing up against the mob's cruelty, Emma aligned herself with the very movement that not only tried to cancel Rowling, but openly wished for her downfall and even her death. That's not neutrality, that's complicity. Rowling raised her voice to defend women, and in return, Emma chose to side with those who sought to destroy her. It's the ultimate betrayal. The student turning on the teacher, the protege trying to erase the very woman who gave her a platform. And while Emma stayed